Hey guys, it's James, and today I'm here to review the recent Rise of the of the Apes film. First, let me get this off by saying I'm sorry for getting this review in so late. I have not had a lot of time to do reviews lately, but I was able to see this movie. What's weird about Planet of the Apes, of the Planet of the Apes franchise to me is that, for me personally, it's a franchise that I've always been very interested in, but have never seen really any of it. The only pieces of the franchise I have seen is Tim Burton's remake, which I have not seen since I was like 9, so I don't really have an opinion on it. And a Planet of the Apes video game that I played as a kid and remembered really hating, but I've always been interested in the series, if not for the content of the franchise, but conceptually. I like the idea of apes enslaving humans and the whole idea of the oppressed becoming the oppressor. It's a concept that has always interested me. I think it's a very true with society that those that are pushed down will eventually rise up and do the same. But anyway, I only heard this film was being made about a month or two before the film was actually released, and it was interesting to me because it seems like an interesting place to take this franchise. Going back to the Apes Revolution seems like a solid idea, and the director's claims that they were going to quote-unquote Batman Begins this franchise made me excited and afraid at the same time, and I was also a little bit nervous that the apes would all be in CG. But opening day came, and I went to go see the film in theaters with a friend, and the film opens to an African rainforest where apes are being poached for some experiments. They are being experimented on to help find a cure for Alzheimer's, which is being head up by Will Rodman, played by James Franco. Long story short, the experiments causes one of the apes to quote-unquote go crazy and go on a rampage in the halls of the medical company. That is making the drug. So, obviously, the project is shut down, so Will steals one of the baby apes and some of the drug and takes it back to his house. He then sees over time that not only does the drug cure Alzheimer's after testing it on his father, but it also increases intelligence on both apes and humans. So he decides to raise the ape and calls it Caesar. However, can Caesar really survive in a human world as an ape with human intelligence? I feel this film works on several levels. Caesar comes off as a very unique character and is in many ways the main character of this film. The film has a lot to say about not only just animal rights, in my opinion, but a lot to say about what it is like to be an intelligent person when you are part of a group that is oppressed. Caesar can be seen as a slave who can read or write but has to hide it, or a Jew during Nazi Germany who has to hide who he really is. He also can be seen from the perspective of a person who has been raised outside of his culture. And also in terms of just looking at it as an environmental film, it does miles for making it interesting to me and outraged at the treatment of nature than other recent films like Avatar, which deal similar subjects. Which is strange because this film clearly has such a lower budget than films like Avatar did, but works on so many more levels than Avatar could wish to. You really do get to feel for the apes and their struggle, and you feel for Caesar, who goes through a lot of changes in this film, from a young, naive child to an ape that feels like he does not belong, to a prisoner to the leader of a revolution. In many ways, there are a lot of parallels to Caesar and people maybe like Nelson Mandela. Tonally, this film is great, really making me feel like this is a world close to the real world, but crazy things can happen. The cinematography is good, and the film never leaves you feeling bored or distracted from the film, which is good because this is a fairly short movie. I think it's only like an hour 20 or an hour and a half, but it felt very short. However, it does have some issues. I feel like almost all of the human characters could have been played a much lower role than they do. The acting ranged from decent to just awful when it came to the human characters, who I swear a lot of the time act like they don't even care about this film, in my opinion. I never felt once attached to any of them, and to be frank, the humans are often depicted as saints like James Franco's character, or evil, corrupt douchebags like the owner of the ape sanctuary, or the owner of the corporation that James Franco character worked for. And this gets really annoying, and it seems to me that the apes are the only ones really interesting in this movie. James Franco character isn't that interesting. Caesar is the one who's interesting. Caesar's the one with the character arc and all the depth. And even though he has no dialogue in the film, and the CGI for the apes is either at times awful when they are standing still and great when they are moving, manages to make us have a lot more emotion attached to him instead of any of the human characters. And the apes come off as far more varied and interesting than the human characters. I feel like we got less time spent on them and more on the apes. I feel like this could have been a more complete movie and have gotten a better ending. Which comes to my final complaint, which is that the ending of this film is very sudden and may leave a few people a little bit annoyed. It leaves the film with a cliffhanger, and it's clear that there will be more films in this franchise, which I'm sure will happen. The theater I went to is packed, and the film has been getting fairly positive reviews, but it still annoys me because if they had cut a lot of the human subplots out, we could have dealt with this full story in one movie. However, despite the film's character errors and quite a few plot holes, like if Caesar isn't so intelligent, why does he not seem to be able to understand human laws and been able to obey them and not getting himself taken away in the first place? And why no one reported the fact that the main human character has an ape and no one suspected he stole the ape from the company he works for? However, despite this film's flaws, it's still a good and smart film, especially for nowadays and in a market when films like Smurfs are coming out. So, overall, I'm looking forward to this film as a franchise, and I give it a 6.5 or 7 out of 10.